The playoffs are here. The Leafs have taken game one, and the Leafs cast is back.
Holy mackerel, what a shot! It's Austin Matthews! Do you believe that? Pounds it off the roof of the net!
Welcome back to the Leafs cast. Stephen Douglas joined by Tim and Ryan Allison. David Douglas on the buttons here to recap Maple Leafs game one of the playoffs versus the Ottawa Senators, and we're walking away with a W.
All smiles here.
That's right. 1 W, 6 goals, 4 smiles on the Leafs cast. That's what we got. There's the numbers.
I can't see David's smile behind his mustache, but I'll trust that it's there.
You kidding me?
It's showing up, sort of.
That looks brutal. Man, what a game. What a Sunday night tilt in the bank. The Leafs with a flurry of 6 goals, a blizzard of drawn calls and storylines and playoff monkeys blown up. That's right, monkeys blown up all over Scotiabank Arena, where the Leafs walk away with a 6-1 win. What did you guys think of the game? What did you think of the performance? What just happened?
I mean, there's a lot of leafy things that you were kind of in the back of your mind expecting to happen, right? There's like, you let a goal in the first 2 minutes, or as soon as the Leafs score a goal, they let a goal in to let Ottawa tie it, or they get this big lead, but they let Ottawa get a couple of quick goals because we took some dumb penalties and they came back. None of it happened. It just felt like a safe hockey game for 60 minutes where we were better than the other team because we are better than the other team, and we just won. It was fun.
I saw a lot of like what the other side of the coin must have looked like. Like, oh, you take a penalty, other team immediately scores like multiple times, make you pay, right? And it's like, oh, you outshoot your opponent all these times and they score 2 goals on 4 shots. And like all these things that in the past broke our backs and was just so frustrating. This is what it's like on the other side. It's like, oh, playoffs can be fun.
It did kind of feel like the new Leafs, which is us, staring in the mirror. No, not in the mirror, in the past at old Leafs, right? Doing a lot of old Leafy things, because that really is what the Senators were out here doing tonight. Yeah, maybe not like an exact copy, but gosh, some of the just the lack of discipline that Ottawa had here tonight that resulted in a lot of these goals against. Because where we're saying it was 6-2, it wasn't 6-2 just because the Leafs were a better team and they played beautiful 5-on-5 hockey and scored 6 goals. I mean, the Ottawa Senators were, I would say, a mess, really, when it came to their discipline and the penalties that they were taking. What was the final total of penalties besides like the last 2 minutes of scrums? Like total power play chances for the Leafs tonight were what? 7? 6?
We went officially on the score sheet. We went 3 for 6, and Ottawa went 0 for 2.
It was substantially lopsided.
It was, and that's also with none of them occurring in the entire first period, right? You have to capitalize on your chances. Ottawa gave a lot of them to the Leafs. We can hope that will continue. That was not really what we had expected going into this series. I suppose we expected a bit of a heavy hitting game. That was definitely the case from Ottawa's end, especially in that first period. It really felt like the kind of game that Tim hates, where their guys are really just trying to hurt our guys. And it was
they were succeeding by the end of the game.
Yes, but it was very un-Leaf-like to not retaliate. It really felt like Ottawa was playing out of position to intentionally try to take the body over and over again, where the Leafs, it seemed, were a lot more focused on the fact that this is a hockey game and were putting themselves into position. And that resulted in, 2 early goals that kind of put the game away from there.
It kind of felt like it was the team that has, and I mean, I said in the playoff preview pod that we did a couple days ago, is a team that has a lot of experience. And even though it's losing experience, the Leafs have a lot of playoff experience, especially compared to Ottawa Senators, which have basically 0, exception to a few players on their roster. And like, if you look at what Ottawa did this game, that is not how you win a playoff game. You're right, Stephen. It was undisciplined. It was sloppy. Like, Mitch Marner's breakaway. What was the last time that we just had a breakaway in the first period of a playoff game? We never get that because the other team would never give us that. And it just goes down and scores. and we just get up to an easy lead, not an easy lead. Well, I guess it was easy. An early lead is what I meant to say. And we were able to just lock it down. And Ottawa had their chances. Like, they looked pretty good sometimes. They stole ours, played really well. I'm sure we'll get into that. But it just felt like we were better than them, and we were more prepared for playoff game one, which we should have been. But the Leafs don't always rise to that occasion. Like, there's many times throughout this game where you're just looking at it, say it's 4-1, 4-1. It burns bright in Leaf fans' memory. And even though Ottawa made it 4-2, it took us like 2 seconds to make it 5-2, and then it just 6-2, and the game was over. Like, it's just, there's so many boxes that were ticked this game that were just like, yes, the best players showed up and were excellent. Yes, our best defensive players were able to shut down their guys. Yes, the power play was so good in this game. I feel like that was probably the biggest difference between the two teams. Not even just the opportunity, but just the quality. Like, we looked so dominant out there.
And what I think was a factor is, like, we talked last podcast about making the other team play our game. I think that was a big factor. Is like the Leafs generally play a rougher, more defensive style. And so, like, I think Ottawa kind of got suckered into that, and that what we saw as undisciplined penalties was them trying to make their physical presence felt. And it was ultimately overreaching. Like, their guys weren't built for that. Like, I don't know. It was just like a lot of their things just kind of felt that them screaming, "Notice me, respect me," and the refs are just like, "Not like that."
Part of it's got to just be that they just couldn't handle our best players. Like, they were just ringing up the scoreboard. Marner, and then Nylander, and then Tavares, and then Nyes. Like, all of them were just better than them. And when they were on the ice, they looked like they couldn't be contained. It reminds you of those series we played against Boston, where it's just like we did not have an answer for David Pastrnak. We could not figure out how to shut down Bergeron and Marchand. Like, we just couldn't do it. And I know it's only one game. Like, we'll see how the rest of the series goes. But it just looks like we were too much to handle for them.
Ryan, are you asking me if I remember being in your living room watching David Pastrnak have a hat trick as the Leafs lose 7-2 in Game 2 of the 19 series? I do remember that, and now we are that behemoth. Apparently,
I was gonna ask if that's what it feels like. What Boston fans felt like for years going up against us is just going into those games being like, "Oh, we're just absolutely dominating these guys, and they're making rookie mistakes." Well, like, is that what we feel now looking at Ottawa? Like, are they just making these rookie mistakes?
I hope we can coast more in this series than Boston was able to going to Game 7 against us every time, making them sweat some buckets.
That's right.
Ryan, that Mitch Marner goal, we should get into each of the goals, but that one was funny to me because you asked, like, when's the last time, like, Mitch Marner had a breakaway? Like, I originally didn't even think it was Mitch Marner when I saw it. I was like, oh, it must be Calle Yarncroke because, you see like the 16 versus the 19 jersey number. And it's not because it looked like Calle Yarncroke. I was just like, certainly they wouldn't let Mitch Marner behind them on defense, but they did. And he had a sick goal to make it 2-0.
Yeah, it was.
The celebration from him was sick. He seemed so pumped. And that's really getting a playoff monkey off of his back where, going back to that preview where we were talking about, like, even though Mitch Marner's been here for a lot of these playoff runs, this is a Mitch Marner off of his all-time best season he's had on the Maple Leafs, and he's coming to this playoff series. And I think he was pretty much the best forward for the Leafs tonight. I mean, definitely like a top two. Like, he was that dominant tonight. He had a great goal. What other goals stood out to you guys in the game tonight? Like, some sick moments. Hit me with it.
I mean, the one that really sticks out to me, which is going to be a little bit of a call out to Ryan, who said in the last pod that we would only have one defensive goal in the entirety of, like, this round, and we got it as the first goal was a defenseman, and then we got two.
Morgan Riley.
Yeah, that one didn't age okay, but I'm all right with that.
Oh, you'll take it?
Yeah, I'll wear it.
That was funny. Well, you also said Dallas was going to win. But yeah, OEL opens up the scoring, just left naked there in the slot. And he's going to beat Olmark, who did have a rough night. I mean, at one point he had saved one of 3 shots to open up the game. And the Leafs really kept the shots down. But I mean, that John Tavares goal was clutch. Again, another guy who's getting that monkey off of his back, blowing up monkeys in Scotiabank Arena.
It was that Tavares goal that stood out to me because it was just like, just going for the puck. Like he wins the draw, gets in front of the net, does the nice tip, then goes and gets his own rebound and clears it up. It's just like doing your own work, taking care of your own business to score goals. And in a playoff way, it's just get pucks to the net, then go clean up the rebound. Like that's a playoff-esque goals that we struggled to score in previous years. And Tavares just did it all himself. That's the one for me.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
Yeah. Let's talk about some goals against though as well, because the Senators did have 2 tonight.
There's not many.
And even so Stolarz obviously had a really great game tonight. Like Leafs win 6-2. If Stolarz isn't on point, I still think the Leafs are able to win this game, but it definitely kept it very out of reach. He does let in 2, but I think that that first one was, both of them really were just super greasy goals, right? Like very playoff type goals that I guess if a team's trying to do that all night, they're probably going to get one of those a game, where they're just crowding the net. And guys like Morgan Rielly and stuff can maybe do better to clear the bodies out of the way. But so I guess what I'm saying is even though they let 2 in, I'm not satisfied enough with a 6-2 win. I'm not beating up, I'm not going to say any of those goals against were necessarily bad. It was just kind of bounces and just something that happened. I mean, even that second goal against, some of the guys on the Leafs that even thought the play was done because they were on a delayed penalty and they had touched the puck, right? So just kind of greasy, weird goals that Stolarz lets in that, yeah, maybe he didn't get all the credit he deserved for his performance on that score sheet. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think definitely a star. I think certainly early on, keeping the score close when they were certainly pushing. And I think in the middle frame, he had Ottawa power play was happening and made a few good saves that keeps it close. And then the Leafs blow the game open. And Stolarz. We had talked is it going to be Stolarz? Going to be Woll? No question at all. It's going to be Stolarz for game 2. Guys showed up, did everything he needed to. This was the first game, and I forget how long it was, that a home playoff game, we scored more than 2 goals in a significant amount of time.
Eight straight home playoff games, less than 2 goals.
That's crazy. So you think of if we stick with the trend and only score 2 goals, we're going into overtime because of those 2 greasy goals, like you said.
Yeah.
For me, the Stolarz save was earlier in the game. I think it was tied still, or we only hit by 1 goal or so. And I think it was Tkachuk who was just on a breakaway all of a sudden. It was Rielly who made a poor pass at the blue line, and he's coming in. And I just thinking man, Samsonov would have let that in. And maybe Wall would have made that save, but Samsonov would have let that in. And that was who our goalie was for the more or less last year in the playoffs until Wall kind of took over there. And he just made the save, and he honestly made it look pretty easy. And he made some big saves tonight. I think that, the Senators did not get goalied. We were the better team throughout it, but it's 6-2. The 2 goals that went in aren't even the concerning. Those were kind of fluky goals. But the reason why we were so dominant partially is just because Ottawa, I'm sure, couldn't feel like they could get anything going. It's just he was smothering everything. The rebound control was good. It was good top to bottom. I couldn't tell you one position or player who had an off game for Toronto tonight.
Give me somebody besides Stolarz, because I think we can all agree Stolarz is probably the MVP of this game. Give me somebody else on the team who you think had just a stellar night, though. Call somebody out. I'll give you one. Oliver Ekman-Larsson, I think, had an excellent game tonight. Obviously third pairing defenseman, opens up the game with a goal. And even just besides that goal, which even though it's a really great opportunity, he's a defenseman. You don't always expect a defenseman to score in that situation. Mm-hmm. Just making the smart pass and really I noticed him a lot tonight being efficient, getting the puck out of our end where we were able to keep it in Ottawa's end a lot. OEL, just a really strong night. Probably the best night I can think of him in a Maple Leaf sweater. I don't know, this year in 2025. Honestly, he was so good tonight. So OEL's got my pick.
He was pretty questionable to actually be in the game tonight. There's a lot of chatter that he wasn't going to be ready to go because he was injured at the end of the season. So I agree. He did have a strong game, Stephen. I don't know if I'd say he had the strongest game, but I did want to give some love to the captain, Austin Matthews, even though he's one of the few elite talents on our team that did not score a goal. he was elite defensively. He set up, I think, at least 2 or 3 of the goals directly. Like that Mitch Marner breakaway was due to a nice play that he made to get it up the ice. And he could have had a couple goals. Like he looked real dangerous out there. So even though he didn't score, I don't think that it's cause for concern that Matthews is going to be shut down or locked out this series. I thought he had a real strong game.
Give me the former captain as my player to look at. John Tavares, not only for his goal, but like I love how good he is in the face-off dot. Like how many goals were directly coming off face-off wins? And
well, at least 2 of the power play goals, just straight off face-off win, 2 seconds back of the net.
Yeah. No, really happy with Tavares' performance tonight.
Tim, can I get your thoughts on the fact that Austin Matthews may have actually healed his injury just by playing through it? Just checking in on that, because he really does look the best that he has
all year.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, even without scoring, it is pretty remarkable. It's funny. We have like those 3 goals on the power play tonight and a lot of power play opportunities. I don't even know if there's a ton of takeaways from like how the power play was like kind of getting after Ottawa, because the goals happened so
didn't last
fast.
long enough.
Yeah, like it was so fast, which is like almost makes the dumb penalties that Ottawa was taking feel even worse, because like you don't even have a second to like settle in on the fact that like, gosh, I just made that stupid play and now I'm sitting in the box and like my team might score. Oh, it's already in the net. You know what I mean?
Well,
right?
I remember you said, Steve, it was years ago on the pod now, but you said the most important, I feel we were talking about Jack Campbell at the time. The most important position on the penalty kill is your goalie. Like he's got to be your best penalty killer. Allmark had a brutal night. Like he was never that bad when we played him when he was on Boston. And we were saying, oh, thank goodness it's Allmark and not Swayman tonight. Like he was even the lesser of the two then, but he had a really off night. It'll be interesting to see how he bounces back in game 2. And if the Leafs light him up again, I don't even know who Ottawa's backup goaltender is, but you got to think that they're thinking about maybe showing him after a game like that. That was not, he had at least 3 like not good goals tonight, I thought.
Yeah. I mean, maybe not quite as rough as all those Lalim 2003 highlights they showed. I feel like they showed like 90% of the games from way back then, but that was okay because the Leafs were good then.
And now all those storylines of, oh, the Leafs have lost 5 straight games to the Senators, and oh, they lost the season series. Right. It's done. The regular season is done, and we're in the playoffs, and you're down 0-1, and you got to go back to the bank on Tuesday night to get pumped again by I don't even know who. Max Pacioretty and Yanni
Scott Laughton.
Scott Laughton.
What did you guys think of Brady Tkachuk in the game? Because like that was to me like in our last playoff preview pod, I said like the one thing I'm scared of is Brady Tkachuk because he was so dominant in that Four Nations face-off, and I just didn't know what he'd be like in this game. Honestly, pretty unnoticeable. Like I mean, I think he hit some guys. Like he laid a big hit on Morgan Riley early in the game, but definitely not the dominant force that I was expecting. I don't know.
Yeah, I would say like. Yeah, not a dominant force, but I don't think any of the Sens really like. I mean, they probably just want to write this game off, saying like we had no momentum with the power plays, we were a little intimidated, and such. Like I would say that they just looked outclassed.
Give me a break. So
no class.
Okay, I guess we got to keep the pods tight here. This is a playoff pod of Gallagher. A galley named after Brendan Gallagher, by the way, because we like to keep him short.
Short man.
Well, we have to explain the joke at least once because it's going back like whenever we played the Canadians in the playoffs. But so Leafs are back in action again on Tuesday night in Toronto in the bank to hopefully go up 2-0 in this series. What are you guys looking for going into the next game that the listeners can call back on as the next game begins? What are you guys thinking?
I'd like to see the Leafs be a little more dominant on 5-on-5. I think not that like the penalties that Ottawa was taken, I think were justified in my unbiased opinion, but I think I would be shocked if we end up with a power play advantage next game, just the way things tend to go. And so the Leafs won't be able to afford being outshot 2-1 on some of these things, and so they're going to have to step it up a little bit. And still confident about the Leafs because I think we're better, but Yeah, no, I want to see the Leafs be a little more complete as far as controlling the play.
Wait, so the Leafs just won a game 6-2. They're the top seed in their division, and Tim's like, I think we're better.
No, we're better. There's my insight.
I'm looking for sure shakeup on the second and third lines going into the next game. You know, despite the win, the Leafs went into this game after all of our discussions in the preview about what the lines are going to be. Rolled the same lines out there they did from game 82, and Max Domi was on the second line left wing. And even though we got the win, that first period did not go well for that line whatsoever. It looked really rough. And even in the start of the second period looked pretty rough. Just, I don't know, not generating anything. And honestly, not a strong game from Max Domi anyway, but he gets moved down to third line center as the game goes on. And Pontus Holmberg makes his spot on second line left wing. And even though the Leafs get the W, I still just don't think that's the best look for this team. I think they can win even with maybe the less than like perfect lineup in Steven's opinion on the Leafs cast. But I'm just hoping that it's somebody else. Maybe it's Max Pacioretty draws in and plays on that second line. Like I don't think that Pontus Holmberg is going to be able to get the third line going more than like Max Domi or maybe somebody else could. So I think that's something I'm just looking for. Like I don't know that they're just going to go into the next game with Max Domi as the third line center and Pontus Holmberg as the second line left wing with guys like David Kampf and Max Pacioretty, and Ryan Reeves in the stands tonight, and Yanni Hakanpää in the stands tonight. So that's what I'm looking for. Otherwise, I think everything's chalk. I think you put Stolars back out there again. I think you hope that every single thing happens again that happened tonight and that you win 6-2 again. So that's what I'm looking for.
I would like to see the Leafs continue to just, I guess, choke out the Senators. I don't mean like physically like what the Senators were trying to do to us at that garbage time at the end of the game. I mean, we shut them out 2 for 2 on the PK, and they didn't get any power play goals against us. And even the 2 goals they did score were kind of fluky goals. And I want to keep it that way. I don't want them feeling like they can start pumping us or that they can get, like, I want them feeling like we felt for every playoff series we've had leading up to this, where goals are so hard to come by. And I want them to hate Chris Tanev because he's always blocking their shots and getting the stick in the way. Like, I want them to be frustrated that they cannot score goals against us like they were tonight. That's what I want to see.
Beautiful. Ryan, can you make another ludicrous prediction that will be wrong immediately in the next game, like your only 1 goal by defenseman?
2 goals for Scott Laughton next game. Get ready.
Wait, that means it won't happen. So you have to say that he will not score 2 goals the next game.
No, maybe he'll score 3.
Oh, baby. All right.
Spicy.
And David, your hair stays safe because Yanni Hakanpää did not play in the game, but your hair is still on watch that we're going to have to etch Yanni Hakanpää's face and number into the side of your beautiful head. We're going to do the face. You have to, I don't make the rules, but these are the rules.
It's all right. You can edit that out in post, David.
Get the side of your head off of this podcast feed. Okay, I think the podcast is done. A beautiful night. A beautiful night to be a Leafs fan. A 6-2 win. Can't think of a playoff win that's not a series win for the Leafs. It's been this sweet in a while. So soak it in, Leafs Nation. Enjoy your Monday. Just bask in it. And we'll be back in action Tuesday night in Toronto. And the Leafs cast will be back after the game to recap. Like and subscribe. Watch on YouTube. Tell your grandma. That's it. Good night. We're done. Stay safe.